What's up guys, Bloodshed here. Today we're going to talk all about the stagger mechanic, the counter mechanic, and the destruction / weak point mechanic here in Lost Ark. We just updated our website to have an abyssal dungeon section where I have fights for tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, all the way up to tier 3 Oculus, Aria's Oculus here. But to get through all that content, you're going to need to know about, stagger, weak point, and so forth. So I thought I would do a dedicated video just to kind of cover the basics and maybe show you guys what I do in every raid. So why would you want to stagger in the first place? Well, you can bypass really powerful attacks. You can stop the boss from moving so then everybody can land their big damage abilities, damage windows. Sometimes you need to do it for the mechanics. Sometimes you want to slow down stagger for certain bosses. When it's a dangerous moment and you see this big yellow bar, kind of like the player bar, right? This means you're gonna get one shot or he's gonna do a big attack to the group if you don't stop this, right? This is the stagger, like the big stagger bar, like the limited time type of stagger bar, the golden bar, if you will. So there's a lot of raids that utilize this mechanic where you have to do enough stagger damage to stop the boss from casting his spell or whatever they're trying to do to your group. But most of the time they just have this purple bar up here, and that's also like a stagger bar so you can hit him with some DPS, right? So we'll go ahead and do some stagger damage to the boss. And you can see as we do more and more spells, it's gonna take more and more chunks off of him until eventually you exhaust the stagger bar fully and he's down. And this is where you can drop your ultimates, your big damage abilities, and all that type of stuff to then defeat the boss, and you guys will be good to go. So there's the two types of bar, the golden bar and you have the blue bar, right? So blue bar is normal stagger and golden bar is, oh shit, you better stagger or you gon' die bar. To know what abilities stagger the most, you're gonna have to go through your abilities one by one and see for your particular class. You can see right here, it says stagger high, right? So every skill you're gonna have to go through and see what they have. This frost orb right here is a stagger mid. So I could use that as a backup. So you find your strongest abilities before big stagger check fights and make sure they're equipped, make sure you're ready to go. There's also runes called Overwhelm. On skill hit, stagger damage is increased by 20%. So you can attach runes to the skills to do more stagger damage even if your team needs that extra little edge, right? In addition, something that everybody can do, even supports, you can drop bombs on the enemies, okay? The one I normally use is Whirlwind Grenade. You can see it says stagger high right above the yellow text there. And also the clay grenades have stagger high. A lot of the other ones though are mid to high. Here's a low one, mid high, mid high, mid high. So even if you're out of whirlwind grenades and you can't make them, you can craft them in your stronghold, by the way. Try to use something, right? They're pretty much instant cast bombs. So it's really quick and easy to drop and help out the group if they need it. Pretty much everybody can stagger enemies, but some of the best classes are gonna be SOULFIST, ARTILLERIST, Scrapper, and GUNLANCER, right? They have just extra stagger swag on their abilities. So if you're pre-making a group, maybe consider one of those classes before you jump in. That way you just have maybe a little bit smoother time, as long as they know what they're doing, right? And they know what the stagger mechanic is in the first place. Also, don't forget about your ultimate. A lot of the ultimates have really high stagger and weak point or different abilities. So definitely check your ultimates. You might wanna use, if you have both of them unlocked, you might wanna use, your first or second awakening, depending on the fight and what you need. So don't forget about that skill. That's a good one to pay attention to. Again, this should give you a basic overview of what stagger is and how to at least get through the fight. For the weak point destruction mechanic, some enemies will have breakable parts on them that you need to knock off, like the turtles, for instance, the tree guardian, the scorpions, if you've seen the scorpions, or they have that little, like the little iron sight target on them, ice lizards. There's a lot of times where you're gonna need to break a part off of them. And you'll know that they have a part that you need to break because there's no stagger bar actually that we just learned about. So let me summon the turtle here. So you're gonna need to apply abilities that say weak point on it. So similar to stagger, right? This does have stagger and weak point level 2. You're gonna need to apply weak point to the hard parts or the area to break off. A lot of fights are gonna be different. These breakable parts have their own kind of HP bar, and it's based on the level of weakness. So like, let's say this is weakness 20, you need to do 20 levels of weakness basically to break it. So we have like weakness level 2, right? So we'd have to cast it 10 times, right? Just as a as a beginner understanding of how it works, right? It's its own kind of HP bar. And sometimes when you do break off these parts, then you're able to do massive damage to them. Similar to Stagger, how you knock enemies down. Once you break it, you can do a lot of damage to them as well. Again, you would go through your spells and till you find something that says like weak point, like this has weak point level 1. Make sure you use those abilities or whatever your class is gonna be. Just like before, we have bombs that can definitely help us. And that's why I always bring Whirlwind for the Stagger and Destruction Bombs for the weak point. This Destruction Bomb has a weak point level 3. It even kind of makes sense, right? It looks like a grenade to actually get in there and break a shell off of something, right? And that pretty much covers it for the Destruction / weak point mechanic. Some fights are just gonna have to learn to break those parts off of them. Before we get into the counter mechanic, you can hit escape on your keyboard and go right to the training room right here. It'll teleport you to this area that I'm at. And when you go to advanced tab on the right side, it'll say counterattack and weak point. And then you can practice for your specific class what weak points that the game recommends and what counterattacks that the game recommends. So you'll know ahead of time what to do and get some practice with it, some field training. But I do recommend reading through your abilities because you might have other skills, right, that you could utilize differently. So definitely check out all your abilities also. So counterattack is the next level Sekiro Mikiri counter badass ability of your dreams. Sometimes you'll do a Guardian raid and you're like, man, the boss didn't really do much, right? Like we just kind of destroyed it. Yeah, that's because somebody's probably counterattacking the boss a lot, right? Stunning the boss, interrupting his abilities. Counterattack is exactly what you think it is. It basically is like a parry, essentially. If you play support, that's another thing that you could do to stand out, right? You could shield, you can heal, you can buff, right? You can drop those destruction bombs, the stagger bombs, and then when an enemy tries to do something, boom, and then you counter them on top of that, right? So all these little things, everybody working together adds up, and an experienced group is something to see here in Lost Ark, right? It really stands out. I'll kind of show it in action here. So you'll notice when you have a chance to do a counterattack, the enemy, the boss turns blue just like that. This is Urnil here. You can practice on Urnil in the Guardian raid. Mine is Squall, and then boom. And that's how it's done, right? And that works with every class. So to land this, you're going to want to maybe increase your attack speed with the skill, increase your radius with the skill, whatever your skill is for whatever class. You want to make that come out fast. That way you can boom, react and counter, right? So now he doesn't leap and now he stands still. Now people can land their ults and all their abilities way easier. And that's pretty much it on how you counterattack. You're gonna have to learn all the different fights to know when you have an opening or what the animations look like. Sometimes they're really fast and you only have a small window to do so. This is really good to learn because there's gonna be times, especially later on in T3, unreleased content where you're gonna have to counterattack multiple times in a row to even get through the raid. But that's pretty much it. I hope this video helped you guys out. If it did, leave a like on the video as it helps me out, fight that YouTube algorithm. I stream at twitch.tv/bloodshed. I have a website where I put all these videos and different various content and graphics on the website. Thanks for everything, and hopefully this helps. I'll see you guys soon on stream. Peace out.